Hey everybody, so welcome to a new video tutorial series on basically building Node.js APIs. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to look at creating a Node.js API similar to my other videos on creating one with Mongodb, but instead in this one what we're going to do is we're going to create it using PostgreSQL. So why Postgres instead of Mongodb? Well, MongoDB is commonly used within Node.js, and mainly I feel it's a much easier database to get up and running quite quickly. It's unstructured, and if you use things such as Mongoose or other tools, it's quite easy to make it structured, but you're kind of actually losing some of the charm of what MongoDB is meant for. And personally, as a project gets larger, I find that having a structured database is a blessing to have. So, that's led me to looking at Postgres. Postgres is a great piece of software. It's a great database tool. There's lots of extensions, and the community is really awesome. So it's a great tool if you want that structured database. It's definitely something you should give a go. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to load up my terminal. Let's just make this a little bit bigger, shall we? Too big. Okay, cool. So like before, similar what we're going to do is we're going to make this a Koa application. And so let's get started, shall we? So in order to do that, what we want to do is we want to basically initialize. So make sure you've got Node installed. I am using version 11, so if we take a look here, you can see I'm using version 11.6. I use Node version manager to basically manage my versions of Node, but we could also use version 10 if we wanted to, which is the latest LTS version. But we're okay using 11 for the meantime. So let's do that. Okay, perfect. Let's clear this off. Now, what we're going to do is just make a directory, and this one's going to be a little bit more full-featured. We're going to look at things such as testing later on in this, so we kind of want to make sure that we've got a nice a nice organized and structured project. So I'm not sure what we're going to call it yet. We'll call it, Todoist is kind of a typical one. We can do blogs as well. It's kind of a good question on what we should do. I think we'll just see how it goes. We'll start with just the standard user registration, and maybe add some things later when I'm feeling like there might be something interesting to build with it. So let's go do it Koa PG. Let's do it all in lowercase, just in case you are a Linux user. It's always best to use camel case in my opinion. And let's just split these panes out. Okay, perfect. I can probably shrink this down a bit. There we go. So here we are inside of our project directory. And the first thing we're going to want to do is npm init. So we're going to initialize this. And Koa PG is fine. Version 1, a project for a project which incorporates Koa and Postgres. And we'll have that as an point of index.js. Now we're going to leave this blank at the moment, the test command, but we will be adding tests later. We're going to look at two different types of tests, which are going to be end-to-end tests, which are my favorite, and unit tests, which aren't my favorite. But I'll go into more detail about which one is my favorite and which one isn't, and what the benefits and drawbacks of using each have. We haven't got a Git repository yet, but we will be setting one up, and we'll just do test Koa Postgrads. There we go. And yeah, we'll leave it at that license. That's fine. There we go. So let's go over to Vim and refresh. There we go. You'll see we just got the package.json in there. So if we have a look inside, that's it. It's pretty bare bones at the moment. Nothing much going on. What we do need is an index.js. Now I'm just going to change this and keep it tidy, and we'll keep it in source because it is a source file. So here, I'm going to make a source file here, and that's the source directory. So if we type in tree, you'll see that's what we got. We've got our source and our package.json. And then let's just create index.js as well. If I type in tree again, there we go. You can see this is what we've got. Now, I did remember my last time I used environment variables pretty heavily. I think they are, pretty useful thing. Very, very useful for things such as setting the node path and things like that, which we'll talk about. So what we want to do is basically install our packages. Now one of these packages is going to be to help with environment variables, because I know people on Windows tend to have a lot more difficulty, and this is my own fault. I didn't realize the extent of Windows users on using Node.js, which is fantastic, great to see. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to install basically a few dependencies. I'll go through these one by one. You can install all of these at the same time, such as like that. But I'm just going to install them one by one and explain which each one does. So the first one we're going to do is Koa enforce node path. I hope you guys can see that. Might have to make it just slightly bigger. Yeah, let's go for that size. There's no real difference between those two sizes. So enforce node path. So this basically will enforce that we have our node path environment variable set, which is kind of important. Personally, I am a big fan of the node path environment variable, and it basically allows us to, when we're acquiring other files, we don't have to go up and down the script. So let's do that. So in that command, the -S is basically telling us to save it. So if we go back to let's reload this page, you'll see that it's now saved in our dependencies, which is important. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we want to include our new npm package, which is basically allowing us to enforce node path. Now, enforcing a node path is going to basically make sure that we have the node path environment set variable set to where we want to have it set, and we want to have it set in the source directory. So we'll do this. And we'll set it to be in the directory name. Let's get rid of the semicolon. I do not like them in JavaScript, but if you do like them, feel free to use them. And we don't have any apps yet, so that would do. Now, if we do npm start, let's make sure we have that in the script. So we want to node source/index.js. That's our starting script. Let's go back here. Now if we type in npm start, you'll see that we have an error. And the error is node path environment variable must be set to the resolved path. And that prints out nicely here as the project directory. So let's just clear this off. Let's do node path equals source npm start. And there we go. That started the app, no error this time. So rather than having to type that in each time, what we can do is we can start it off here. So we can do node path equals source. Now, this works fine on Linux and, Unix-based systems, but it won't work fine on Windows, so we want to install another package to help with that. But let's just give this a go anyway. Npm start, and there we go, that's fine. So we can also just do npm start as well, so we didn't need to add the environment variable. However, on Windows, this won't work, so we need to add a new package. So we're going to do npm I again to install, and this is going to be cross-env this time, and we'll save that in there. Now what we want to do is go back to this. Let's reload it. Okay, so we reloaded, and you'll see we've got our new package, cross environment, in there. So what we're going to do instead here is do cross-env, and that's it. That basically will apply cross-environment variables across. Feel free to check all these out on npm. You can just search for their project names, and they'll tell you a little bit more about it. Perfect. Okay, so we've got this working. Let's just double check again that it works. Great, excellent. So cross environment's working, and we've got our node path. So the next thing we want to do is very similar to the other video. I recommend checking that out if you haven't. It's a much shorter video on how to set up a Node.js project. This one's going to be a little bit more comprehensive, and we're going to get much further into the details. So the next thing we want to do is we just want to basically create our app. So we're going to create a directory under source called app. So source/app. And then here again, we're going to use another index.js. Now this might be a little bit confusing. You don't have to do it this way. I prefer it this way just because it allows you to create things that are a little bit more modular. So inside we've got index.js, and we've got here this as well. So let's create our first function. And the first function we want to do when we have an app is called probably start. So here we go, we're going to do this, and it's going to be an asynchronous function. If you don't know what that means, I'll go into that in a bit of detail at the moment, but it just means it's a function that returns a promise. And again, if you don't know what a promise is, I'll explain that in more detail and why we have these and what benefits they provide. Okay, so this is just going to be our function to start, and we'll just print hello world basically. So we'll do console.log hello world. So this is our nice simple hello world function. Basically a good way of getting started, but we're doing it in the sense of setting up a project. Okay, so now we want to get this running. You'll notice if we run npm start, nothing happens. So let's do that. But first of all, I'm going to show you a trick. So you'll notice every time running npm start is a little bit cumbersome, especially whenever we got a change. We want to be able to see that instantly rather than having to go back over here. So what I use is a tool called Node Monitor. So you can install this by going npm I and then G, which is for global, nodemon. And that will install Node Monitor or nodemon, which will allow us to basically run the app, and every time we save the file, it will reload. You'll see it installing there. Done. Perfect. Okay, let's give it a go. Now in our package.json we can do, and this is what I like to do, we do start and then watch. Or you can just do standard watch. We'll go for that. That's a little bit easier to run. And all we do here is nodemon. That should be enough. Let's try it. Okay, yep, that does almost work. The problem is it doesn't set the environment variables. So we want to do npm start. Let's try that. Might be a case that we have to set the node path on nodemon itself, which is also not ideal, but it's something we can do for the moment. So we'll try that out instead. So we do cross-env node path equals source nodemon. And what I'll do is I'll make sure I have a Git project for this up and running, and I'll put it in a link in the description, and that'll basically have the various codes. I'll make sure I'll tag them on Git so you can look at each basic, as the code as it develops and go to the point you want to see. So let's try that again, and we'll do npm run watch. And there we go. You can see that we're running, and we can restart at any point by typing rs. So let me clear this up and give that a go. Perfect. So now what we wanted to do after that little diversion is we wanted to get hello world working. So what we need to do here is similar to how we got require for the enforce node path. We want to do const. Well, this needs to be at the top, This is the only file that really does have that. Then we do const app equals require app. So without enforce node path, this would have to go like this, which isn't too bad. But if we were down somewhere else and we had to go up above in our directory structure, it would end up looking like this, which can be a pain if you want to start moving things around, and it just becomes a bit of a management task. And we don't really want to do that. So instead, we just do require app. Okay, everything's fine, nothing broke. Now then, let's do app.start. And that's it. You can see we got hello world. So that's our hello world function basically running within our context. And that's the initial project setup we want to get done. Now we can change this, and you'll see that it automatically updates. So that's basically us getting our project up and running. In the next video, what we'll do is we'll look at getting the actual server set up using Koa, and then look at maybe things such as environment variables and configurations, which is very important when you want to run this live in production. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next episode.